The incident on Earth. On a quiet afternoon, the sun shone brightly over a small town on Earth. Children laughed and played in the park, while their parents chatted nearby. Among them was a little boy named Alex. He was 6 years old and had a big imagination. He loved pretending to be a brave hero, flying through the air and saving the day. Just as Alex was about to climb the jungle gym, something unusual happened in the sky. A large spaceship appeared, casting a dark shadow over the park. The townspeople looked up, their eyes wide with fear and curiosity. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It belonged to the Galactic Council, a powerful group that ruled over many planets in the galaxy. The Galactic Council had come to Earth for a routine inspection. They believed that humans were primitive and untrustworthy. Their mission was to show strength and control. As the ship descended, it landed with a loud thud, sending a tremor through the ground. The Council's soldiers, tall and armored, stepped out, their faces hidden behind dark helmets. They marched with purpose, scanning the area for any sign of trouble. Alex watched with wide eyes, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. He had read stories about aliens, but he never thought he would see them in real life. He whispered to his friend Mia, "Look at those big robots. Do you think they are here to help us?" Mia frowned. "I don't think so, Alex. They look scary." As the soldiers approached, the townspeople grew anxious. Some began to back away, sensing that something was wrong. The leader of the soldiers, a tall figure named Commander Zarek, raised his hand. "We come in peace," he declared, but his voice was cold and threatening. Before anyone could respond, Zarek pointed to a group of children, including Alex and Mia. "You, step forward." The children hesitated, glancing at their parents for reassurance. The adults looked terrified, unable to protect their children. Alex felt a surge of bravery. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "What do you want from us?" he asked, his voice trembling but firm. Zarek turned his gaze to the boy, surprised by his courage. "We are here to observe. Humans must learn their place in the galaxy." He turned to his soldiers and commanded, "Show them our power." Without warning, the soldiers began to demonstrate their advanced weaponry. They fired energy blasts into the air, creating bright flashes of light. The townspeople gasped, panic spreading through the crowd. Children screamed, and parents pulled them closer, shielding them from the chaos. In the midst of this turmoil, a loud explosion echoed. The soldiers had accidentally set off a weapon near a group of frightened children. The blast knocked Alex to the ground, and he cried out in pain as he felt something sharp hit him. Mia rushed to his side, her eyes wide with fear. "Alex, are you okay?" she cried, trying to help him up. But Alex could not move. He felt weak and scared, his vision blurring. The sounds of the crowd faded, and all he could see was the darkness creeping in. The adults around them were horrified. They rushed to help, but Zarek and his soldiers stood firm, their weapons aimed at the crowd. "Stay back. This is your fault," Zarek shouted. "You brought this upon yourselves." As the chaos unfolded, Alex's parents ran forward, desperate to reach their son. They pushed through the terrified crowd, crying out his name. "Alex, no." His mother's voice rang through the air, filled with fear and anger. But it was too late. The Council's soldiers showed no mercy. They had come to show strength, but their actions only revealed their brutality. In a moment that felt like an eternity, the town was plunged into darkness. Alex's eyes closed, and he felt nothing but a deep sense of loss. As the dust settled, the townspeople were left in shock. Commander Zarek and his soldiers returned to their ship, leaving behind a scene of devastation. They believed they had shown humans their place, but they had only ignited a fire within their hearts. The news of the tragedy spread quickly. The loss of a child weighed heavily on the people of Earth. Parents held their children tightly, realizing how fragile their lives truly were. The Galactic Council had made a fatal mistake, and they would soon learn that humanity would not stand by and let this injustice go unpunished. In the weeks that followed, the town mourned the loss of young Alex. His picture hung in every home, a reminder of the day everything changed. The people spoke of revenge, of standing together against the Galactic Council, and in the heart of the Earth, a storm was brewing. They would show the galaxy that humanity had strength, courage, and a will to fight back. And so, the stage was set for a conflict that would change the course of history. The Galactic Council had made a grave error, and now humanity was ready to unleash its ancient power. The story of Alex would not end in darkness. It would spark a fire that would burn bright in the galaxy. The call to arms. In the aftermath of the tragic incident, the small town that had once been filled with laughter and joy was now shrouded in sorrow. The loss of young Alex weighed heavily on the hearts of the townspeople. As they gathered in the local community center, the mood was somber, and the air was thick with anger and grief. A group of parents, led by Alex's father, David, stood at the front of the room. David's eyes were filled with determination, and he spoke passionately about the need for action. We cannot let this go unpunished. The Galactic Council has shown us their true nature. They see us as weak and powerless. But we are not. We must unite and show them that humanity will not be pushed around. The crowd murmured in agreement, their emotions rising as David's words ignited a spark within them. A woman named Sarah, Alex's mother, stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Our children deserve to live in peace, not in fear. We must fight back. We have to show them that we are strong, that we will protect our own. As the meeting continued, plans began to take shape. The townspeople discussed the ancient legends they had heard as children, stories of powerful fleets and brave warriors who had fought against overwhelming odds. They recalled the tales of Earth's forgotten history, filled with heroism and resilience. A retired military officer named Colonel Ramirez stood up, his voice commanding. We may not have advanced technology like the Galactic Council, but we have something they do not: the will to fight for what is right. We must gather our resources, our knowledge, and our courage. We can create our own fleet, just like the legends say. The crowd erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted by the idea of resistance. They began to share stories of their own experiences, drawing from the strength of their pasts. Each tale reinforced their resolve, reminding them that they were not alone in this struggle. Meanwhile, deep within the heart of the Earth, a secret facility lay hidden. It was known as the Legacy Bunker, a place where humanity's most advanced technology had been developed and stored for generations. The bunker held the key to their survival, the ancient ships and weapons designed to protect Earth from threats beyond the stars. David and Colonel Ramirez knew they had to act quickly. They assembled a small team of skilled individuals, including engineers, scientists, and former military personnel. Their goal was to awaken the ancient fleet and prepare it for battle. The time for action had come, and they could feel the urgency in their hearts. As they descended into the bunker, the air was thick with anticipation. The dim lights flickered as they approached the massive doors that had been sealed for years. David placed his hand on the control panel, his heart racing. "This is it," he said, glancing back at his team. "We will honor Alex's memory today." With a loud hiss, the doors slowly opened, revealing a vast chamber filled with dormant ships. Each vessel was a testament to humanity's ingenuity, a relic of a time when Earth had faced threats from beyond. The sight was awe-inspiring, and the team felt a sense of purpose wash over them. Colonel Ramirez led the group to the nearest ship, a sleek, silver craft with intricate designs etched into its hull. "This is the Tempest," he explained. "It was built for speed and agility. If we can revive her systems, she will be our first line of defense." The engineers got to work, analyzing the ship's technology and systems. Hours turned into days as they poured their energy into the revival process. The bunker was filled with the sounds of machinery whirring to life and the excitement of a team united by a common goal. Meanwhile, News of the incident and the townspeople's resolve began to spread. Messages of support and solidarity flooded in from neighboring towns and cities. People from all walks of life came together, motivated by the desire to protect their loved ones and honor the memory of Alex. As the final touches were made to the tempest, David addressed his team. "We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every child, every family that has been hurt by the Council's cruelty. We will show them that humanity is stronger than they think." With their spirits high and determination fueling their hearts, the team prepared for their first mission. They would launch the Tempest into the sky, a symbol of humanity's resilience and defiance. The Galactic Council would soon learn that they had underestimated Earth's resolve. The countdown began, and as the engines roared to life, the ship lifted off the ground. David watched in awe as the Tempest soared into the atmosphere, a glimmer of hope against the dark backdrop of space. The ancient fleet was awakening, and humanity was ready to strike back. The first step had been taken, but it was only the beginning. They knew they had to rally more support, gather more ships, and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Galactic Council. The fire of revenge burned brightly in their hearts, and they were determined to turn their grief into strength. As the Tempest disappeared into the stars, a sense of purpose filled the air. Humanity was no longer just a target. They were a force to be reckoned with, and as they set their sights on the Galactic Council, they knew they would fight for their future and for the memory of the child they had lost. The gathering storm. As the Tempest soared into the void of space, David and his crew aboard the ancient ship felt an electric excitement. They were no longer just grieving parents and townsfolk. They had transformed into warriors on a mission. The stars outside the viewing windows glittered like diamonds, a stark contrast to the heavy burden they carried in their hearts. They were determined to avenge Alex and show the Galactic Council that humanity would not back down. Back on Earth, word of their mission spread like wildfire. Communities united, rallying support for the newly formed fleet. People gathered in parks and town squares, waving banners and chanting slogans. They shared stories of Alex and other innocent lives lost, igniting a passion that spread across the globe. The Galactic Council had awakened a sleeping giant, and humanity was ready to stand together. David and Colonel Ramirez knew they needed to gather more ships and resources to make their stand effective. They began reaching out to other factions that had long been hidden away. Old military bases, secretive research labs, and even forgotten warehouses filled with remnants of humanity's past. All held the potential to bolster their fledgling fleet. The first stop was an abandoned military base on the outskirts of the town. Once a hub for defense operations, it now lay in ruins, a ghost of its former self. David, Colonel Ramirez, and a small team of volunteers arrived at the site, armed with determination and hope. As they explored the dilapidated buildings, they stumbled upon a treasure trove of equipment and technology. Rusting tanks, old fighter jets, and stacks of supplies littered the grounds. Among the debris, they found a massive hangar that still housed several operational aircraft. The sight filled them with renewed vigor. "Look at this place," Colonel Ramirez exclaimed, his voice echoing in the empty hangar. "With a little work, we can get these planes back in the air. They may not have the same advanced technology as the Tempest, but they'll be invaluable for our cause." The team got to work, tirelessly restoring the aircraft. They repaired engines, fixed wiring, and scoured the base for anything useful. Each passing day brought them closer to readying their fleet for battle. As the sun set over the horizon, the hangar glowed with the lights of their makeshift workshops, buzzing with the energy of shared purpose. Meanwhile, news of their efforts reached distant colonies and cities across Earth. People who had felt lost and forgotten began to take notice. Messages flooded in from various factions, offering assistance, weapons, and even ships that had been hidden away for years. Humanity was rising to the occasion, and the Galactic Council would soon realize the strength of their unity. One day, while working on a fighter jet, David received a transmission from a small colony on Mars. The voice crackled through the speakers, full of urgency. "We've heard about your cause. We want to help. We have access to some advanced weaponry and technology that could be useful in your fight against the Council." David's heart raced. This was the kind of support they needed to turn the tide. "We'll send a ship to pick you up," he replied, his voice steady. "Every bit of help counts." With renewed determination, David gathered his team. "We need to prepare for the journey to Mars. This could be a game changer for us. Let's make sure we're ready to secure every resource we can." Days turned into nights as they worked tirelessly to restore the abandoned aircraft and prepare for their journey. As they prepared to leave, a sense of camaraderie filled the air. Each person had a role, and every contribution mattered. They were no longer just individuals. They were part of a greater cause. As they launched from Earth, the sight of their planet receding in the distance filled them with a mixture of hope and determination. The Tempest led the way, flanked by the newly restored fighter jets. The stars stretched out before them, a vast expanse filled with possibilities. Upon reaching Mars, they were met by a small group of colonists. The Martians were eager to join the fight and brought with them advanced technology, weapons that could penetrate the Galactic Council's defenses. As they boarded the Tempest, excitement filled the air. This was the first time they felt a glimmer of hope against the seemingly insurmountable odds. Back on Earth, the resistance was growing. News of their mission inspired others to join in. Groups formed to strategize and share information, while others focused on building their own defenses. Humanity was awakening, and the Galactic Council's actions had sparked a fire that could not be extinguished. As the combined crew of Earth and Mars prepared for their first mission, David gathered everyone in the main deck of the Tempest. "We are fighting for our future. We have suffered losses, but we will not let them be in vain. Together, we are stronger than any force that stands against us. The Galactic Council will learn that humanity does not follow their rules. We make our own." The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits soaring as they prepared to face the unknown. They had transformed their grief into strength and their sorrow into action. With each passing moment, the threat of the Galactic Council loomed closer, but so did the promise of a united humanity rising to protect their own. As the Tempest and its newfound allies set their course for the Galactic Council's territory, a sense of purpose hung in the air. They were no longer just a group of townsfolk. They were warriors fighting for their right to exist. The gathering storm was upon them, and they were ready to unleash their fury. A new alliance. After their daring escape from the Galactic Council's supply ship, the crew of the Tempest returned to Earth with a wealth of resources and newfound confidence. The atmosphere on the ship was electric with excitement as they prepared to debrief and share their success with the people back home. David stood at the helm, contemplating their next move. As they approached Earth, the ship's viewports filled with the vibrant blue and green of their home planet. It was a sight that reminded each crew member of why they fought. The memories of the human child lost to the Council's cruelty fueled their resolve. They were not just fighting for themselves. They were fighting for every human being who had suffered at the hands of the Galactic Council. Upon landing at their secret base in the mountains, the crew was met with cheers and applause from their fellow resistance members. David stepped off the Tempest, his heart swelling with pride. "We did it," he shouted, raising his fist in the air. "We've struck a blow against the Council." The crowd erupted in applause, their faces filled with hope. Among them stood General Parks, the leader of the Earth Resistance. She stepped forward, a proud smile on her face. "Your bravery has reignited the fire within our people. With this victory, we can rally more support against the Galactic Council." David nodded, feeling the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. "We need to use the resources we gathered wisely. It's time to forge new alliances. If we can unite other species who have suffered under the Council, we can build a coalition strong enough to stand against them." "That's a risky move, but it might be our best chance. We have heard whispers of discontent among the other species. Many are oppressed, just like us." As they gathered in the command room, David laid out a plan. "We'll start with the Zilith, a race of skilled pilots and engineers. They have long been under the Council's thumb, but I believe they want to break free. We can offer them our alliance, and in return, they can provide us with advanced technology. Colonel Ramirez chimed in. We should also reach out to the Orvaxians. They're known for their stealth capabilities. If we can bring them into our coalition, it would enhance our strategic advantages. General Parks nodded in agreement. It's settled then. We'll send envoys to both the Zilith and Orvaxians. We need to demonstrate our strength and show that we are not just a fractured group of humans. We are the beginning of a new alliance. As the crew prepared to send their messages, David felt a sense of hope growing within him. This was the chance they needed to shift the balance of power. They were no longer alone. They had allies to call upon. Days passed as they awaited responses from the Zilith and Orvaxians. During this time, the Tempest was outfitted with the supplies and technology they had acquired. The crew worked tirelessly, eager to be ready for whatever came next. The rising storm. The days leading up to the joint exercises with the Zilith and Orvaxians were filled with tension and anticipation. David and his crew on the Tempest worked tirelessly to prepare for the demonstration of their strength and capabilities. Each crew member understood that this was not just a test of skills. It was a chance to solidify their alliances and prove they were worthy of trust. The Tempest floated in orbit above Earth, a massive ship now equipped with advanced technology from their previous mission. The crew bustled around, calibrating systems and making final adjustments. David stood on the bridge, reviewing the mission details with Colonel Ramirez and General Parks. Remember, the Zilith are exceptional pilots, and the Orvaxians have stealth capabilities we've never encountered before, David said, his voice steady. We need to showcase our teamwork. We're not just individual fighters. We are part of a larger coalition now. General Parks nodded, her expression serious. We need to show them that we can work together seamlessly. If we can demonstrate that we are a unified force, they will be more inclined to join us in the fight against the Galactic Council. Colonel Ramirez added, let's focus on tactical maneuvers. We should plan for both offensive and defensive strategies. This will highlight our adaptability and strength. As the meeting concluded, David felt a surge of determination. They had come so far, and he was not about to let his crew down. They were ready to face this challenge head-on. On the day of the exercises, the Tempest descended from orbit, making its way to a designated training ground on an uninhabited moon. The surface was rocky and barren, a perfect setting for their joint operations. As they landed, the Zilith ships descended gracefully, their sleek forms cutting through the sky with elegance. The Orvaxian vessel followed, cloaked in a shroud of stealth, appearing only when it landed silently beside the Tempest. David stepped out to greet the Zilith and Orvaxians. Commander Xaler and Ambassador Talaris emerged from their ships, their expressions serious but curious. Welcome, David said, extending his hand. Today, we will demonstrate our capabilities and work together as a team. Xaler regarded David with a steady gaze. Show us your strength, Earthling. We are ready to see what you can do. The first exercise involved aerial maneuvers. David led the Tempest alongside the Zilith ships in a coordinated formation. The Zilith pilots skillfully darted through the air, their movements fluid and precise. David watched in awe as they executed complex formations, weaving through obstacles with grace. Now let's show them what we can do, David shouted to his crew, excitement bubbling within him. As they began their maneuvering exercises, David signaled for a simulated attack. The Tempest unleashed its energy weapons, striking targets on the surface while the Zilith swooped in, dodging incoming fire and retaliating with their advanced weaponry. The collaboration was seamless, and the display of skill and teamwork was impressive. Xaler watched intently, nodding in approval. You fight with passion, Earthlings, but can you adapt when the situation changes? David smiled, confident in his crew's abilities. Let's put that to the test. Next came the stealth exercises with the Orvaxians. Talaris led the Tempest into a simulated stealth operation, where they had to infiltrate a mock enemy base without being detected. The Orvaxians demonstrated their cloaking technology, making their ship invisible to sensors. "Follow our lead," Talaris instructed, his voice calm. "We will guide you through the operation." As the Tempest cloaked its systems, David felt a rush of adrenaline. They crept towards the simulated base, the tension palpable. The Orvaxians expertly navigated through the enemy defenses, showcasing their stealth capabilities. The Tempest followed, maintaining a low profile. Suddenly, alarms blared, and David's heart raced. "What happened?" he yelled, scanning the sensors. "Looks like we've been detected," Colonel Ramirez shouted, her fingers flying over the controls. Talaris remained calm. "Stay focused. We must adapt quickly. Engage evasive maneuvers." With the Orvaxians leading the way, they executed a series of complex maneuvers to evade incoming fire. David and his crew followed suit, learning to anticipate movements and adjust accordingly. The tension in the air was thick, but they managed to work together, fending off simulated enemy attacks while making their way to the objective. After what felt like an eternity, they successfully completed the exercise. David could hardly believe how well they had performed as a unified force. They had faced challenges head-on and adapted to the unexpected. As the exercises concluded, David gathered his crew and their new allies together. The mood was celebratory, and he could see the respect growing among them. "I'm proud of what we've accomplished today," David said, addressing both the Zilith and Orvaxians. "We fought together and adapted to every challenge. This is just the beginning of our alliance." Taylor stepped forward, a newfound respect in his eyes. "You have proven your strength and determination, Earthling. We will consider joining your cause against the Galactic Council." Talaris nodded, his demeanor shifting to one of cooperation. "Together, we can create a force the Council cannot ignore. We are willing to unite our strengths." The cheers erupted around them, and David felt a sense of triumph wash over him. They had not only demonstrated their capabilities, but also laid the groundwork for a powerful coalition. With new alliances forming, they were ready to take on the Galactic Council together. As the sun set on the barren moon, David stood alongside his crew and allies, looking out over the horizon. They were no longer just a group of humans fighting for survival. They were the beginning of a formidable force, ready to challenge the tyranny of the Galactic Council. The call to arms. The sun rose over the barren moon, casting long shadows as David and his crew gathered for a strategy session. The excitement from the previous day's exercises still lingered in the air, but now they faced the daunting reality of preparing for war. With new alliances formed, the stakes were higher than ever. The Galactic Council would not sit idly by while they united against it. David stood at the head of the conference table aboard the Tempest, flanked by Colonel Ramirez, General Parks, Commander Xalar of the Zilith, and Ambassador Talaris of the Orvaxians. The atmosphere was electric, filled with the urgency of their mission. "Now that we've demonstrated our capabilities together, we must plan our next steps," David began, looking at each ally. "We know the Council is aware of our movements. They will respond aggressively." General Parks leaned forward, her expression serious. "We need intelligence on their fleet movements. Knowing their strategies will give us an edge. If we can predict their actions, we can strike first." Xalar nodded in agreement. "Our scouts can monitor the Council's activities. We have stealth technology that can remain undetected. It will be a crucial advantage." "Good," David replied. "While we gather intelligence, we should also prepare for the possibility of an all-out conflict. We need to ensure our forces are ready to act quickly if necessary." The days turned into weeks as the Tempest and its crew, alongside their new allies, prepared for the inevitable confrontation. They trained together relentlessly, refining their tactics and learning to anticipate each other's moves. The Zilith pilots became more integrated with the Tempest crew, sharing their aerial combat expertise. Meanwhile, the Orvaxians provided invaluable lessons on stealth and ambush tactics. David felt a sense of camaraderie building among them. They were no longer just allies in name. They were becoming a united front. But despite their growing strength, an undercurrent of anxiety remained. The Galactic Council was powerful, and David knew the odds were still stacked against them. One evening, as the crew gathered to discuss their findings, Zettler entered with urgent news. "We have intercepted communications from the Galactic Council. They are aware of our alliance and are mobilizing a fleet to crush us." A hushed silence fell over the room. David's heart raced as he processed the implications of this information. "How soon will they arrive?" he asked. "Within days," Tallerus replied, his voice calm but grave. "We must act quickly. If we wait, we risk losing the element of surprise." General Parks exchanged glances with David. "We need to launch a preemptive strike. If we can take down a portion of their fleet before they can regroup, we'll stand a better chance." David nodded, determination flooding his veins. "We'll hit them hard and fast. We know their weaknesses, and we've trained for this moment. Let's take the fight to them." In the days leading up to the battle, tension hung in the air. The crew of the Tempest, alongside their Zilith and Orvaxian allies, prepared their ships for war. The atmosphere was filled with a mix of fear and excitement. Each crew member knew the risks, but the hope of freedom from the Galactic Council fueled their resolve. David stood on the bridge, surveying the preparations. He could see the Zilith ships glimmering in the hangar bay, ready for battle, and the Orvaxian vessel cloaked and waiting for its moment to strike. "Let's make this count," he said to his crew. "Today, we fight not just for ourselves, but for every world oppressed by the Council. We fight for our future." As they launched from the moon's surface, a sense of unity enveloped the fleet. The Tempest led the charge, flanked by the sleek Zilith ships and the stealthy Orvaxians. They entered hyperspace, heading toward the coordinates where they believed the Council's fleet would gather. When they emerged from hyperspace, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Galactic Council's fleet loomed large, an armada of ships ready to defend their control over the galaxy. David's heart raced as he assessed the situation. "Prepare for battle," he commanded, adrenaline surging through him. "Remember your training. Trust in your allies." As they engaged the Council's forces, chaos erupted. Energy blasts filled the space around them, and the Tempest dodged incoming fire while returning fire with its own weapons. The Zilith pilots moved with precision, weaving through enemy formations, their ships darting like lightning. Meanwhile, the Orvaxians launched surprise attacks, emerging from stealth to strike at the Council's vulnerable ships. David fought alongside his crew, feeling the exhilaration of battle. Each maneuver, each shot fired, reinforced the bond they had built. They were no longer just a collection of ships. They were a unified force. Amidst the chaos, David spotted a Council flagship, their command ship. "That's the heart of their operation," he shouted. "We need to take it out." He signaled to Xalar and Tallerus, whom nodded in understanding. The three ships coordinated their attacks, focusing on the flagship while fending off incoming enemy fighters. As they closed in on the flagship, David felt a surge of determination. This was their moment. They would not just survive. They would prevail. With one final push, they unleashed a concentrated volley of energy blasts, striking the flagship at its weak point. The ship shuddered violently, and alarms blared as it began to break apart. Cheers erupted over the comms as the flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The Council fleet faltered, and the tide of the battle shifted. David's heart swelled with pride as he witnessed the bravery of his crew and allies. "We've done it," General Parks shouted, her voice filled with exhilaration. "They're retreating." As the remnants of the Council fleet scattered, David felt a mix of relief and triumph. They had not only survived the battle, but had struck a significant blow against their oppressors. In the aftermath of the conflict, as they regrouped and assessed their losses, David looked around at his crew and allies. They had fought together, faced insurmountable odds, and emerged victorious. When they emerged from hyperspace, the sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Galactic Council's fleet loomed large, an armada of ships ready to defend their control over the galaxy. David's heart raced as he assessed the situation. "Prepare for battle," he commanded, adrenaline surging through him. "Remember your training. Trust in your allies." As they engaged the Council's forces, chaos erupted. Energy blasts filled the space around them, and the Tempest dodged incoming fire while returning fire with its own weapons. The Zilith pilots moved with precision, weaving through enemy formations, their ships darting like lightning. Meanwhile, the Orvaxians launched surprise attacks, emerging from stealth to strike at the Council's vulnerable ships. The Reckoning. The atmosphere aboard the Tempest was electric as David and his crew prepared for the final confrontation with the Galactic Council. They had fought hard and won crucial battles, but the Council was not done with them yet. The intelligence reports indicated that the Council was regrouping, preparing for a massive counter-offensive. David knew that they had to strike first, or they risked losing everything they had fought for. As the ship glided through the vastness of space, David gathered his crew on the bridge. The weight of responsibility hung heavy on his shoulders, but he was determined not to show fear. He looked at the faces of his crew, each one marked by the challenges they had overcome together. They were no longer just a crew, they were family. "Listen up, everyone," David began, his voice steady. "We've faced insurmountable odds, but together, we've proven that we can stand up to the Council. Now, it's time to finish this." General Parks stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "We've intercepted their communications, and they plan to strike at several key planets. If we can hit them hard before they deploy their forces, we can disrupt their plans." "Exactly," David agreed. "We'll launch a surprise attack on their main fleet. We need to cripple them before they have a chance to regroup." Zilor, the Xylith commander, nodded in agreement. "We have new strategies to employ. We'll coordinate our fleets for a combined assault. The Council will not expect us to hit them at their strongest point." Talaris, the Orvaxian ambassador, added, "We must also protect our allies. They are counting on us to defend their homes. We cannot let the Council's tyranny spread." The crew erupted in a chorus of affirmations, each member fueled by a sense of purpose and unity. David felt a surge of pride. They were all in this together, ready to face the challenge head-on. As they approached the coordinates of the Council's main fleet, tension filled the air. The vast expanse of space opened up before them, revealing the ominous sight of the Council's ships, dark and imposing against the backdrop of distant stars. David took a deep breath, steadying his nerves. "Prepare for battle stations," he commanded, his heart racing. "We will strike hard and fast. Remember your training and watch each other's backs." The crew sprang into action, checking their weapons systems and preparing their ships for combat. David took his position at the helm, eyes focused on the enemy fleet. The countdown began, and he could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins. 3, 2, 1, now, David shouted, and they surged forward into the fray. The Tempest and its allied ships plunged into the battle, the air filled with the sounds of energy blasts and the chaos of war. David maneuvered the ship with precision, dodging enemy fire while returning shots that illuminated the dark void of space. General Parks coordinated their attack, directing fighters and bombers to key positions. "Flank them on the left," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We need to create openings in their defenses." Zeller's Zilith ships swooped in, their agility unmatched, striking at the flanks of the Council's formation. David watched in awe as they executed their maneuvers flawlessly, each ship moving like a well-oiled machine. The Orvaxian vessels engaged from stealth, ambushing the Council's supply lines and disrupting their communications. David's heart swelled with pride as he fought alongside his allies. This was more than just a battle. It was a united front against oppression. They were showing the galaxy what humanity and its allies were capable of. But just as they seemed to gain the upper hand, the Council deployed its secret weapon, a massive flagship that emerged from the shadows, bristling with weaponry. It loomed over the battlefield, a symbol of the Council's power. "Stay focused," David shouted. "We can't let it intimidate us. Target its engines. If we can disable it, we can turn the tide of this battle." The crew worked in unison, firing at the flagship while dodging incoming fire from its defensive turrets. The flagship retaliated, unleashing devastating blasts that tore through the ranks of their fleet. Shields holding at 70%. One crew member reported, his voice tense. "Redirect power to forward shields," David ordered, determination stealing his resolve. They couldn't back down now. As they approached the flagship, David felt the weight of their mission bearing down on him. This was their chance to end the Council's reign of terror. He knew they had to strike with everything they had. "On my mark, fire all weapons," he commanded, his heart pounding. With a collective breath, they unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, targeting the flagship's engines. The flagship shuddered, sparks flying from its hull, but it retaliated with renewed fury. The battle raged on around them, the chaos intensifying. Suddenly, the Tempest rocked violently as a blast struck them directly. Alarms blared, and David struggled to maintain control. "Status report," he barked. "Main engine damage. We're losing power," a crew member shouted, panic creeping into his voice. David's mind raced. They couldn't afford to lose now. "Can we make the jump to hyperspace?" he asked, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Not without power," the crew member replied. "We'll be sitting ducks." With a surge of adrenaline, David took a deep breath. "We can't let that happen. We need to get out of here and regroup." "Sir, there's a chance we could use the flagship's blast against it," Parks suggested. "If we can draw its fire, we might redirect it." David's eyes narrowed as he considered the plan. It was risky, but they had to take a chance. "Let's do it. We'll lure it in and strike when the moment is right." As they maneuvered the Tempest closer to the flagship, David's heart raced. He could feel the tension in the air as they prepared for their final push. "Hold steady, everyone," he said, focusing on the task at hand. "This is it." With a final surge of speed, they positioned themselves just within striking distance. The flagship unleashed its energy, and David could feel the heat wash over the Tempest. "Now, return fire," he commanded, and they let loose everything they had. The energy blasts collided with the flagship, striking its engines and igniting a chain reaction. The flagship shuddered violently before erupting in a brilliant explosion, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Cheers erupted over the comms as the Council's fleet began to falter. David felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had done it. They had struck a significant blow against the Council. As the dust settled, David looked around at his crew and allies. They had faced incredible odds and emerged victorious. The Galactic Council was reeling, its grip on the galaxy weakened. "This victory is just the beginning," David said, his voice filled with pride. "We've shown that together, we are stronger than any tyranny. We will continue to fight for our freedom, and the freedom of those who cannot fight for themselves." Cheers erupted from the crew as they celebrated their hard-won victory. David felt a sense of hope for the future. They had forged alliances and stood up against oppression. As the Tempest sailed through the stars, David knew that they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would continue to fight for a brighter future, united in their quest for freedom. The galaxy would remember this day, and the dawn of a new era had begun. David fought alongside his crew, feeling the exhilaration of battle. Each maneuver, each shot fired, reinforced the bond they had built. They were no longer just a collection of ships. They were a unified force. Amidst the chaos, David spotted a Council flagship, their command ship. "That's the heart of their operation," he shouted. "We need to take it out." He signaled to Xalar and Talaris, who nodded in understanding. The three ships coordinated their attacks, focusing on the flagship while fending off incoming enemy fighters. As they closed in on the flagship, David felt a surge of determination. This was their moment. They would not just survive. They would prevail. With one final push, they unleashed a concentrated volley of energy blasts, striking the flagship at its weak point. The ship shuddered violently, and alarms blared as it began to break apart. Cheers erupted over the comms as the flagship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The Council fleet faltered, and the tide of the battle shifted. David's heart swelled with pride as he witnessed the bravery of his crew and allies. "We've done it," General Parks shouted, her voice filled with exhilaration. "They're retreating." As the remnants of the Council fleet scattered, David felt a mix of relief and triumph. They had not only survived the battle, but had struck a significant blow against their oppressors. In the aftermath of the conflict, as they regrouped and assessed their losses, David looked around at his crew and allies. They had fought together, faced insurmountable odds, and emerged victorious. "We did this together," David said, his voice steady. "This victory is just the beginning. We have shown the galaxy that we will not be silenced, that we will fight for our freedom. Together, we are stronger than any tyranny." As they celebrated their hard-won victory, David couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future. They had forged alliances and stood up against the Galactic Council. With each passing day, they were becoming a beacon of hope for those who had suffered under the Council's rule. And as they prepared for the battles that lay ahead, David knew they were ready. They would face whatever challenges came their way, united as one. Together, they would change the galaxy forever. "We did this together," David said, his voice steady. "This victory is just the beginning. We have shown the galaxy that we will not be silenced, that we will fight for our freedom. Together, we are stronger than any tyranny." As they celebrated their hard-won victory, David couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future. They had forged alliances and stood up against the Galactic Council. With each passing day, they were becoming a beacon of hope for those who had suffered under the Council's rule. And as they prepared for the battles that lay ahead, David knew they were ready. They would face whatever challenges came their way, united as one. Together, they would change the galaxy forever.